Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing great. So today's video is going to be a book haul. Since the past few months, so many books have collected on my bookshelf, and earlier I used to do like very regular book hauls. Like I used to visit a book fair, bookstore or something, I'd just do a book haul. But it's been a while now since I shared about any new books on my bookshelf. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do today, just share all the books that are a new addition to my bookshelf. So if you think that is something that interests you, then keep on watching. So let us begin with the best book out of the haul. Best, as in, this is something I am the most excited about reading, which is it is the complete screenplay of Fantastic Beasts. And this one is all the more special because this was a gift. This was a gift by someone who knows how much I love Harry Potter, how much I'm obsessed with this series. So yeah, this was a gift. That makes it very very special, and it's a hardcover. So a big yes to hardcovers all the time, and it's Harry Potter. So three things making it the best one out of the haul. First of all, look at the cover. It's so pretty. And this is a book which is like different from any other book that I own because it's actually a screenplay. It's like not a novel. So I watched Fantastic Beasts once, and I think it would be so much fun to watch it again after reading the screenplay. And it's even more exciting because this actually has a lot of behind the scenes content. For example, it has character sketches, which are like, how a particular character was visualized before it came to life on screen, and then it has a lot of location renderings. So for example, this is from the German Ministry of Magic exterior. So lots of such behind the scenes, and it has commentary from the producer or director or something. So yeah, a very very different book, and it's been sitting on my shelf for so long, and I'm very excited to finally read this. Okay, so the second one is Emma by Jane Austen. I got this from the last book fair, the New Delhi World Book Fair. Why I bought it is because, first of all, it's Austen, so I love Austen's works. I've read Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility and Persuasion, loved all of them. I have Mansfield Park with me, so this would like take me one step closer to complete my Austen collection. Now I'll be left with the Northanger Abbey. I guess that's the only one that's left out of Austen's works in my collection. So yeah, that was the second reason to get the book. And the third one, very superficial, I know, so don't judge me. I know people say do not judge a book by its cover, but I totally judged it by its cover. I think this is the prettiest Austen book that I own. Yeah, I was being a little petty there, but it is what it is. Okay, so the third book is The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri, and why I got it is because it's pretty famous and it's also the Pulitzer Prize winner, and I've never read anything by Jhumpa Lahiri. So yeah, I've heard so much about this book, so I was just visiting this random bookstore one day, found it there, and I thought, we've read so much about this book, so might as well read it. Not that I read it after that, but yeah, it's been sitting on my shelf for some while now, so hopefully I'll get to it pretty soon. I've heard such good things about this book. Like I've not heard a single person say something bad about it. So yeah, that is why I really wanted to read it. Okay, so the next book, I think it's pretty interesting. It's called Contemporary Indian Poetry in English. And why I'm saying it's interesting is not just because it's poetry, which I absolutely love, but it's a collection of the contemporary English poetry along with dialogues or like interviews from these poets, which happened as a result of the 3 day seminar organized by Sahitya Academy and the University of Hyderabad in 1999. So of course, I love poetry. If you don't know, I also wrote a poetry book. A little bit of self promotion because why not? So, if you don't know, you can check that out as well. Anyway, so I love reading poetry, and I think I love reading about poets and from poets about their poetry even more because, as I said, I myself write poetry, and to hear from other poets what goes on in their mind, or what's why they write, how they write, what they write. It is all just very very interesting to me. So when I just when I saw this book at the book fair, I knew I had to get it. Since we are talking about poetry, uh, this another book that I got uh, from Sahitya Academy itself, which is called We Speak in Changing Languages, Indian Women Poets from 1990 to 2007. So I got it simply because I love poetry, and then it's women's poetry. And I absolutely love Sylvia Plath, and I absolutely love Emily Dickinson. So there are lots of women poets who I genuinely relate to, and therefore, I want to read more from women poets. And sometimes my own poetry, or anything that I write, sometimes it is really rooted in my experience as a woman. So I know when poetry comes out of that, it can be really, it just really makes me feel. So yeah, that's why I picked this up. Right, next up we have a book by a really celebrated author, which is Amrita Pritam. So this is selected stories of Amrita Pritam. Who has not heard of her, right? So I've heard so much about her, and specifically there are just these certain lines from one of her poetry which are so popular, and even even on Instagram reels they are so trending all the time. And whenever I hear them, I love them. So I've always been looking forward to reading something by her. So that is why when I saw this book, I knew I had to get it. It has short stories by her, and I am pretty excited to read them. Okay, so next up we have Manto My Love. These are selected writings of Saadat Hassan Manto. So in my graduation and now during my masters, we read a lot about partition literature, post-independence literature, and literature written during the colonial era, and all those sorts of things. And I mentioned in my previous video as well, that's one topic that really interests me. So whenever we are talking about partition literature, there's one name that will definitely be mentioned, and that's Manto, and I think rightly so. But um, as far as academics are concerned, or the syllabus is concerned, there are just a couple of stories that are taught, or that we read as students of literature most of the times. One is, I guess, Thanda Gosht, or Cold Meat, and another is Toba Tek Singh. So these two are pretty popular. I've read them and I loved them. So they were really impactful, and I absolutely loved the way Manto wrote. So when I saw this book, I was like, yes, I would want to read more by him, and his take on everything that was happening during the partition, around the partition. I think it's very interesting, very very impactful, very touching. It makes you think a little differently about the times. It definitely evokes emotions in you. That's all you want from a piece of writing, right? So yeah, I've always loved reading his works. That is why I picked this up. Next, I have selected works of Franz Kafka, or Franz Kafka, correct me, whatever the correct pronunciation is. Again, he's one writer everybody talks of, but I've never read like a single work from him. I've read his quotations here and there, pieces from him here and there. And every time I read something by him, even before I know it's by him, most of the times I'm like, wow, who wrote this? Just I think there's a lot of depth in what he writes, and it takes you a minute to understand what's going on, but once it clicks, you're like, wow. So and then I'm like, okay, I've heard a lot about him. So that is why I knew I had to like read him properly, and that is why I got this one. The next is actually two books in one, which is Notes from Underground and The Double by Dostoevsky. Now, I think everybody has heard of Dostoevsky. I don't need to introduce him. Especially the most famous work by him is Crime and Punishment, and I had to read it as part of my undergrad. And unfortunately, I did not completely read it. So I left it halfway because I had to read other things, but I was pretty involved in the book, and I was really, really like liking it. And then again, I've read a couple of things by Dostoevsky here and there, like passages and all. Um, and that is why I think he's also one writer that really makes you think, you know. He can give you existential crisis as well. He always gives you existential crisis, I guess. But that's, that's a charm of him, I guess. And yeah, I just really wanted to read something more by him. So that's why I picked this up. Now, last but not the least is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And this is like a non-fiction work, a self-help book, and I've heard a lot about it, but this I did not get for myself because I'm not really a non-fiction person. I read non-fiction sometimes, but self-help and all, this is just not my thing. So I just got it for somebody else who I know really loves non-fiction books, but I thought I'd share this with you anyways. um, yeah, I do not know anything about the book, and I don't think I'm going to read it. But if you've read it, just let me know in the comments how you liked it. So these were pretty much all the books that I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope I'm not missing any book that I have not talked about. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel to watch more bookish videos. You can also follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is mentioned right here. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.